Yeah. So that first one was written in standard form. We'll go back and look at example B. The example B they showed you. What do you notice about this equation? It's not in standard form, is it? So if you have an equation like that, you have to rewrite it. You have to move things around to make it equal to 0. And then once you have it equal to 0, then you know your A value is 1, you know your B value is -2, and you know your C value is -4.
So you just take that, plug that in?
Exactly. Yes.
That's right?
Yeah. Don't leave yet, Dollar John.
Huh?
Even though you understand it, don't leave.
No, I won't.
All right. All right, so let's look at the ones that you guys just had. And in the video it said, this is the quadratic formula. You don't have to worry about memorizing this. You can always, like, anytime you have it in a math class, you can look it up. After you use it, you're going to see that it's easy to memorize. But this is the formula we want to use. So here's our equation. Is it already in standard form?
Yes.
Yeah, it already says equal to 0, so we don't have to move it around or change anything. We already can just look at this and know our A, B, and C values. So looking at this, what's the A value?
6.
A is the coefficient with the x squared, so A is 6. B is 5. And C, yeah, since it says -4, that means C is this writing bad on your screen?
Yeah.
All right, I don't know what's... All right, I don't know what's happening. This is like the smart board at school now. All right, so A is... Oh, I think it was me. I think that was my fault. No, it's not. A is 6. B is 5. And C is -4. All right. So now that you've got your A, B, and C values, it's a matter of careful substitution. So we are now going to say then the solution of this, x is going to be equal to, and now we just have to substitute -b. What's your b value? B value is 5. So if it's supposed to be -b, do you agree that that's going to be -5?
Yes.
Okay, and now plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. So b squared is just going to be 5 squared. And when you're doing these, make sure your first step is just substitution. Don't try to do anything mentally at first. Just do all your substitution and then go back and start simplifying. So it's going to be -4 times the a value. What's the a value? 6. And then your c value is -4. Right? And then it's all over 2a. So there's, I'm sorry, and A is what? A is 6, so it's going to be 2 times 6. So there's your substitution. This is supposed to be... Yes. Why don't we use what? It's just, I'm going to stay with Google Meets today.
Okay.
It usually works alright, but that's a good idea. Maybe we should start using Zoom.
I feel like this is kind of lively,
It's kind of... You're right, Zoom's probably alright. We'll try Zoom tomorrow.
Okay.
Alright, good idea, Dollar John.
Yeah.
Alright, so now it's just using your order of operations and simplifying. So I'm going to leave the -5, and now I'm going to simplify everything that's under the radical. So what's 5 to the second? 25. So I'm thinking, all right, that's going to be 25 minus, and then 4 times 6 is
It's 24.
24, and then what's 24 times negative 4?
96.
Negative 96, yes?
That was mentally off.
So 25 minus negative 96.
121.
Good, that means 25 plus 96, yes? Which is 121. So everything under the radical is simplified to 121. And then in the denominator, what do we have? 2 times 6 is 12. Well, what's the square root of 121?
11.
11. Yeah, so I know then that x is going to be negative 5 plus 11 over 12, or it's going to be negative 5 minus 11 over 12. That's what the plus or minus means. You can either add the two together in the numerator or subtract.
Oh, yeah.
And now we just have to simplify each of those. Looking at the first one, what's negative 5 plus 11? 6. And then what's 6 over 12?
0.5.
Yep, 0.5. 0.5, 1 half, and then simplify the other one. What's negative 5 minus 11?
Negative 6.
Good. And then negative 16 over 12.
1.7.
You can make it a decimal, or if you just divide both by 4, you could simplify the fraction, and you get negative 4 over
Third.
3.
1/3. Yeah, 1.33.
Negative 1.3, right? Make sure you write it negative. So those are your two solutions for that quadratic equation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty easy one.
It's just substitution is all it is, right? And then on the second one, I look at the equation. What do I notice about it?
This is, I'll put in, standard form.
Good. So what do we do to put it in a standard form?
We add
Add 1 to the front.
And that'll make it equal to 0. So you first want to rewrite it and make it x squared minus 4x plus 1. Now you can look at this and know your a, b, and c values. So what's the a value?
1.
There's no coefficient with the x squared. That's the same as 1x squared. Yeah. So a is 1. What's b?
E is negative
Good. Negative 4. And then c
1.
is 1 because of the plus 1 right there. So now you have your values. Now we just need to substitute it into the quadratic formula. So if I can find x is going to be, what's negative b?
Negative b is, wait, what? Oh, 4. Negative 4.
Isn't it the negative of negative 4?
Yeah, negative 4.
Alright, and then plus or minus?
Yeah, plus or minus negative 4 to the second.
Negative 4 squared minus 4 times,
Times, 1 times 1.
yep, all over 2a.
So what do we do first? The exponent, right?
Well, what do we do first? Well, first of all, simplify the negative 4. That's 4, right? Now, look at your b squared minus 4ac. What's negative 4 squared?
16.
16 minus, and then what's 4 times 1 times 1?
Negative 4.
So it's going to be 16 minus 4. And what's 16 minus 4?
12.
12. So under the radical, it's just square root of 12. And then what's 2 times 1 in the denominator? 2. So now we want to think, can we simplify this further?
Yes.
What can we do about the square root of 12? How can we simplify that?
Just leave it.
Wait, Mr. Starfish?
Yeah?
What about the 2?
Yeah, we're going to look at that in 1 second. But how can we simplify square root of 12? Think about your perfect square factors.
Oh,
Oh yeah. 4, 3.
yeah.
So it's radical 4 times radical 3, right? So square root of 4 is
2.
2, so we can change that to 2 radical 3, yes?
Yeah.
So I'm going to change that square root of 12 to 2 radical 3, and now what can we do with that fraction?
Divide it.
Wouldn't it just leave it at 2 plus or minus the square root of 8?
Yeah.
Wait, can you say that again?
So we're thinking about how we can simplify this. Notice each of the terms on the top has a factor of 2,
Oh yeah.
and the denominator. So you can divide everything by 2.
Yeah.
So if we divide everything by 2, like Emily said, 4 divided by 2 is
2.
2.
1. 1.
So I'm going to rewrite that as x equals 2 plus or minus the square root of 3, because that 2 canceled out, and then that would just be all over 1. So there would be your simplified answer. And you could write that as x equals 2 plus square root of 3, or you could break it up into two separate equations. X is equal to 2 minus the square root of 3. But you can, that's what this means right here, 2 plus or minus the square root of 3. And then if it asked you to find the nearest decimal value, just take the square root of 3 and then add that to 2, and that would give you your approximate estimate value, your approximate decimal value. So either way would be correct way to write your answer for that one. And then on the last one, what's the first thing you have to do?
Negative 9x to both sides.
Yeah, we want to put it in standard form, which means make it equal to 0. So if you add 9x to both sides, that'll then make it equal to 0.
No.
And now you have it in standard form, and you can figure out your A, B, and C values. What's A? A's 2, right?
Yeah. Oh, 2.
A equals 2. B is 9 because it says plus 9x. And then C is 4 because it says plus 4. So those are your values. Now you just substitute. So x is going to be equal
X
to,
the second is always A, right?
say it again.
The term that has the x raised to the second, that's gonna be A always, right?
Yeah, it's always ax squared plus bx. Sorry about this writing, it's not working. Yeah, so your A value is going to be whatever goes with x squared, right?
Okay.
So now, yes.
So when you substitute it, right? You're like, you just do it a 23rd way. Put it second.
When you start substituting,
Yeah.
well, you just follow.
You finish substituting.
Yeah, we'll let us substitute, and then we'll ask that. I think I know what you're talking about, but let's make sure. So your substitution is going to be negative b. So if b is 9, what do we write?
-9.
Yeah, and then plus or minus. And now under the radical, b squared, which is going to be 9 squared, minus 4 times 2 is your a value,
Times 4.
and your c value is 4. And then 2a is going to be 2 times a is 2, right? So 2 times 2. So that takes care of our substitution. Now let's simplify this all. So Dollar John, what do you have to do first?
You first do the x1.
Yeah. So 9 squared is 81, yes?
Yeah.
So So it's going to be 81 minus, and then what's 4 times 2?
Minus 8, wait, negative 8, and negative 32.
So it's going to be minus 32. And what's 81 minus 32?
49.
49. That worked out nicely. And don't forget the 2a. What's 2 times 2?
2 times 2 is 4.
4. Alright. So, square root of 49 is?
7.
So it's going to be negative 9 plus 7 over 4. Or x can be negative 9 minus 7 over 4. And then just simplify those. What's negative 9 plus 7?
Negative 2.
And what's negative 2 over 4?
Negative 0.5.
Negative 0.5 or negative 1/2. And then for the other one, what's negative 9 minus 7?
Negative 16.
Yep, so negative 16 over 4 is?
Negative 4.
Negative 4. And those are your solutions.
Yeah.
How easy is that?
Oh, that's pretty.
Pretty easy.